Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Thank you for joining us today on a Friday. My name is Kapila Vavegama, and I serve as a Vista leader trainer, as well as a Vista supervisor and a Vista member trainer. I'm joining all of you from California, Sunnyvale, California, and I have had the greatest pleasure meeting, I think, almost all of the leaders who are attending this session, unless we have a few new leaders who may be coming to their training in December. So once again, thank you. This is a very, very important theme to all of us. So my hope that we are going to have an engaging, interactive conversation looking at how can we go about helping our Vista members to be motivated with what they do. I know there are also other attendees outside of Vista leaders. I think there may be some Vista supervisors and Vista members. You are more than welcome to continue to stay if you find this to be a meaningful conversation for you. So before we go any further, I just want a couple of you to let me know through the chat function whether you can hear me clearly. So if you could kindly let me know, please. A few of you, great, thank you very much. And I will do this time to time just to make sure that I'm not just talking to myself and that I have got disconnected, right? So, okay, thank you for the great feedback, everyone. So, let's look at what we have for today. So, for this specific conversation, we have two session goals that we are going to be focusing on. So, first one is we will examine and look at what are some of the key factors that contribute to member demotivation. So some of you may be thinking, hey, wait a minute, I came here to talk about motivation. Why are we focusing on demotivation? You will realize motivation, if we are talking about motivation, we cannot ignore looking at demotivation. Number two, we will also have the opportunity to discuss, identify strategies and techniques that we can use as Vista leaders to minimize member demotivation factors. So I hope this sounds reasonable for you with what you had in your mind. So the framework for this conversation, and you hear me saying I'm not using the word a webinar. I like to call this a conversation because my kind invitation to each one of you, as we are going through this session, let's talk to each other, right? You are going to be using the chat function. There will be very structured opportunities as we go through this process that I am inviting you to bring your insights, experiences, wisdom to the table. That's what we want to happen, because by doing that, we will be able to enrich our, the conversation aspects and take something practical from this conversation. So just please keep that in mind. When we get to this process of engagement, please do engage. So looking at the framework for this conversation, I like to frame it looking at questions. So we take one question at a time and then we answer those. So the 6 questions, as you can see, we will be looking at what is motivating and what challenges the whole concept of motivation, because it's a good starting point, right? That's our sort of bringing everybody on the same page. Then we will continue to look at what are some motivational theories, research, model out there that we could really adopt in our own work. Then we will also look at what are the key contributing conditions leading to motivation. as you will realize when we go through this conversation, there are very concrete, specific conditions that can be created at a workplace that motivate employees, in our case, our VISTA members. Then how can we promote them? Not only learning about what those conditions are, what can we do to promote them as a VISTA leader? How can we, help our VISTA supervisors to be able to promote them? Then we will also take a look at what are some guiding principles of motivation. And then, of course, very, very important, application, right? How are we going to apply this information? So let me check. I am seeing a chat message from Amanda that says, I can't hear anything, but can the group let me know, please, again, whether you can hear me? Okay, so thank you. I'm here. I'm getting the feedback that others can hear. So Amanda, as one of your colleagues have mentioned, double check your headphone. If you are using a headphone, maybe it's on off. And if not, you will have to call in using the call-in number that is given on WebEx. So if you look at your WebEx browser, you will see the tab that you can look at for the calling in information. Okay, thank you. All right, so with that, thank you, team. Thank you for helping Amanda with some of the suggestions. I'm going to invite you to think about, do some math problems on a Friday, just to get our brain wheels working, because maybe you all have had a very long week. Maybe your brains are a little tired. Let's wake them up. So, to look at what is motivating and what challenges motivation, here's my first math quiz. You can send me the answer through the chat function. Once I get the correct answer, the first answer, then I'm going to keep moving on. All right, when you look at the word skills, and if you use the corresponding number for each letter in skills, what is the total? Send it through the chat, and when you are using the chat, choose all participants so everybody can see. So my question again, if you add the letter values for the word skills, what is the answer? Okay, I got a right answer. Sanitra and the rest of you are now sending it to 82. Good. Now, I want to look at another word, and that is aptitude. Do the math for that as well and let me know. Back to the math class, right? So let's see. What's the total you get? 9. Okay, we get 90. Okay, I got one right answer, a couple of right answers. 96, right? Aptitude stands for 96. Let's keep moving. Our next one, knowledge. Okay, let's see some answers. I think maybe some of you send the answers already, or okay, good, yes, 96. You are right. Now, give me the total for attitude, please. What's the total for attitude? Antonia is telling 100, you are right, and that's what attitude comes to. Isn't it amazing? Look at this, just take a moment. Look at these different aspects: skills, aptitude, knowledge, and attitude. So it's very interesting way to look at this. Even when you use this kind of mathematical order, what it says to us is skills are important, aptitude is important, knowledge is important, but what is the most important is the attitude. If somebody does not have that 100% attitude, rest of the things is not going to materialize in a positive way. So this is what motivation is. Really think about it. When somebody starts working at some place, whether as an employee or a VISTA member, or even as a VISTA leader, or even as a VISTA supervisor, when we take up a job at the beginning, are we motivated? Of course, generally speaking, that's why somebody wants to do that, right? Unless they are being forced or put in a situation that they are required to do something. But generally speaking, when people become a VISTA member or a VISTA leader or a supervisor, employees are generally excited. Because why? We have the inner desire to perform and achieve is very high, right? That inner desire. So what you see at the beginning, everybody brings both the aptitude, because that's why that person is recruited. That person seems to have the background, the skills, the knowledge, and the aptitude. So the person has the aptitude, as well as the person has a very positive attitude. Excited, right? Excitement. Now, what happens? After a couple of weeks, couple of months, we look at some of these individuals and we see suddenly, not suddenly, maybe gradually, they are not as motivated as they were at the beginning. So they are still skillful, right? Their skills did not go away. Their aptitude is there. However, their attitude has changed. As you can see, the attitude T has fallen. Now they are only left with the aptitude, but not their positive attitude. This is what motivation is, right? So the motivation is, how can we actually make sure that our members or any workplace, even employees, what can managers, supervisors, leaders, what can we do not to demotivate people that working for us or working for a project, working for an organization? That is where the key aspect of motivation, because generally people are motivated at a workplace when they start. That's why they chose to do it most of the time. So why suddenly we look at people and say, oh, I can't even believe this person was so excited the first couple of weeks. What happened to this individual, right? So what are the things we need to keep in mind so we do not demotivate our employees or our members? And that is, how can we make sure that attitude, the T, does not fall from the equation, that 100% attitude continues with the aptitude. Okay? So let's take a moment and ask ourselves, now this is our moment to think about our own practical situation. What are some of our members' reasons for demotivation? So I'm inviting you, let's continue to use the chat function. Make sure that you choose all participants when you are responding. Send us some of the things that you have seen that your members who were motivated at the beginning, if they were not motivated at the beginning, that is our problem. It is the organization's problem. That means we got the wrong people on the bus. We cannot blame the individual. We have to blame our recruitment. We have to blame our decision making. So if we have done a good job, we got the right people, but now they have lost the motivation, right? Okay, so you can see there are very specific ones that our colleagues are sharing here. no, I mean, this is a great list. So please look at the list. If I try to read everything, it will take a long time. But you can see sometimes it could be the leadership, the supervisory challenges, communication challenges, lack of resources, then also lack of processes, lack of communication and feedback, not having guidance. People are not really accommodating the ideas that the member has can bring to the table. Lack of success. It's not meaningful. What is being asked to do is outside of the WAD responsibilities. So exactly, I mean, this, what you have brought to the table are the living reasons, right? Why our members who were really excited during the interview process, they really wanted to be part of the project, part of, the VISTA program. Those who have lost it, these are the reasons, these are the contributing factors. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, we are going to look at, and you will see most of what you said is sort of falls under this framework or the key reasons. When I did some research around what are some of the key reasons for employee or member demotivation, there are at least 5. There are more than 5, of course, as you can see, but there are major 5 categories that people point out. What are those 5 major categories? Lack of direction, right? Some of what you had shared through the chat actually focuses on or falls under lack of direction. Lack of resources. Some of you very specifically said the exact thing, right? Lack of knowledge, right? Sometimes if people don't know how to do something, they don't have the knowledge and the skills. That is a demotivating factor, not being able to do it. Lack of respect, dignity, and some of you mentioned this, right? Some of you said when the members' ideas or when the member is not taken seriously, different ways that you had worded it in your earlier responses, but along those lines, right? So when people feel like my existence, my presence in this project or in this organization is not even acknowledged positively, that's lack of respect, right? So it challenges the dignity aspect. And then lack of engagement, as some of you said, not having proper ways, opportunities to engage fully, engage meaningfully. So you can see almost what you you shared through the chat function sort of falls under any one of those, could fall under any one of those major categories. So our opportunity today here is to ask ourselves to look at what creates a winning attitude. That is the 100% aspect that we want our members to have. So our next question, as we had mentioned at the beginning, we are looking at questions. So our second question is, what are some motivational models, theories based on research out there? So since with my personal interest in this subject matter, I looked at some of the major models, research, and theories out there that comes from social sciences, psychology, neuroscience, and neuroleadership, sort of combined from all these different fields. I came across, there are many of course, but I came across that very relevant to the type of work we do, 3 different models that are well published, I mean they are well received, used by many different institutions, organizations, individuals globally. And those 3, first one is, some of you are maybe very familiar with Dr. Martin Seligman's work. He's a psychologist. Actually, in today's management and leadership field, he is considered to be the guru of positive psychology. So as you can see, he has done very extensive research and created some great work. And one of the books that I would recommend, if you have not read and if you are interested in this aspect, not only one, there are these both books, and The Learned Optimism is another great book. This really talks about, based on a very extensive study and research that he and Dr. Seligman and his team did to help us to understand why some human beings have a tendency to see things right away from a negative point of view, not a positive point of view. And it does talk about how can we overcome that. So it's a great piece of work. So anyway, now Dr. Seligman, who has done a lot of work also in relation to motivation, the theory that he has brought to the table is called the PERMA theory. Each letter, as you can understand, stands for a different dimension. So what Dr. Seligman says, when these PERMA conditions are existing at a workplace, then people will be self-motivated. That intrinsic motivation will be there. So what are those 5 pieces he's talking about? P, letter P stands for positive emotion. Individuals like to work at a workplace where there are positive emotion, right? When the rest of the people are very positive towards work, towards life, when the leadership has a very positive approach to things, it creates positive emotion. And that is very, very important thing for human beings. We all like to be in a happy place. If our home front is a happy environment, we love to come home. We are always looking for the moment to come back home. If our workplace is a very happy place, we are looking forward to go to the workplace, right? Positive emotions, it creates. Then letter E. E stands for engagement, as some of you pointed out. Individuals are self-motivated when they have the opportunity to meaningfully, fully engage, right? So creating. So how do you create? He talks about having the opportunity for individuals to use their strengths and having challenging, meaningfully challenging tasks that they can engage in, resolving, solving, addressing. Then the R stands for positive relationships. Not just, R stands for relationships, but of course, we are talking about positive relationships, right? Because we all are social animals. So as human beings, we really want to be connected to other people, social connections. That's, if you really look at why things like Facebook and other social media took us such a quick, it spread out so quickly because it is catering to one of the human beings' needs, social connections, relationships, right? So at the workplace, we want to, if the situation is that people feel like I have very positive relationships with the people I work, it's like if you have great people on your Facebook that you are connected to make you always happy, you are always looking for the opportunity to go to our Facebook. So likewise, then people are, looking forward to go to walk into that workplace, to the office. Then M stands for meaning and purpose. And Dr. Seligman says, it's very, very important when people feel that whatever they do has meaning to it, and it has a connection to the life purpose, then people are self-motivated. And then the fifth element is the need for accomplishment, the concept of mastery. people, individuals, when they have an opportunity to accomplish, to master something, we are self-motivated. So those are the 5 conditions that he is bringing to the table. What makes people motivated, internally motivated at a workplace. This is not only at workplace, we can see this also applies to our personal lives too, right? So that's the PERMA theory. Before we look at the other 2 models, I want to quickly check, can you still hear me? Thank you, great. All right, second person, the second model I want to bring to the table. Some of you are very familiar with this, so bear with me, because some of our colleagues may not have come across those. So it's kind of a refresher and maybe some new learning for some of us. Daniel Pink, The Drive. The book, one of the books he wrote is Drive. There are many other books he has written, but his motivational theory that he is bringing to the table, more from a neuroscience point of view, neuro-leadership point of view, he talks about there are 3 major elements that people look for. And what are those 3? Autonomy. Autonomy, but I mean, it's very clear cut, right? This is about when a member feels like the person has autonomy in the work the person does, they are self-motivated. This is why when there is micromanagement, people become demotivated, because micromanagement is a way of taking away autonomy from people, right? So, and also when they feel like, I get to do things the way, like bring my own ideas to the table in a meaningful way and enhance what the project is doing, what we are doing, that's the autonomy we are talking about. Then people are self-motivated. Second one is, again, as Dr. Seligman in PERMA theory also talked about, the mastery or the accomplishment aspect, right? So when the people feel like I am engaged in the right competencies, I am doing the right type of work that allows me to be better, I am getting the right support, then they are self-motivated. And the third aspect is, again, Dr. Seligman also talked about this in the PERMA, purpose, right? What is the purpose of what I do with my life for other people? This is very, very important. I mean, there are other neuroscience research books written about this. There is a book called Why, W-H-I-Y, really answering the question. Our brain always asks, why am I doing it? What's the purpose? What's the meaning, right? So when these 3 conditions, as Daniel Pink describes, if you create those, if you address these 3 conditions, people will be self-motivated. We can prevent them from demotivation. See, this is why I said at the beginning, how can we prevent people to become demotivated so they will be motivated, right? Because they were already motivated at the beginning. Now, let's move on to the third theory. And again, if you had come to the leaders training, we had actually reviewed this. So just a revisit, David Rock's model, the SCARF model, this also has so much to do with motivation, preventing demotivation. And again, as you can see, he has done great work in this arena. One of the several books he has written. One of the books that I would strongly recommend to any leader, whether you are a Vista leader or any type of leader, is the Quart Leadership book. It's a great book. It's an easy read. It really brings some great essentials of leadership. So, as you remember, as David Rock, who actually who has created a very meaningful bridge between neuroscience and neuro-leadership. talks about the SCARF model, and he reminds us when our brain is challenged, any one of those 5 elements of the SCARF model, when they are challenged, our brain gets stuck. It freezes. People are demotivated. They run away. So how can we make sure that those 5 elements in the SCARF model, we make sure that those are not challenged for people at the workplace? And what are those? Their status, their ability, the certainty, and that is the ability to be able to predict, right? So if you have a supervisor, if somebody has a supervisor who is not very predictable, you would have had this experience in your life journey. That can be a very, very difficult place to work or difficult person to work with, because our brain always look for predictability. Again, autonomy, right? We saw this also in the other models. Relatedness, how we relate to each other. As Dr. Seligman talked about, the positive relationship, and here he talks about, again, another element of relationship. Are we all, like in the same group? Not to feel like I am in the out group and the others are in the in group at my workplace. Whenever that happens, people get demotivated because their brain shut down, their ability to, continue to be enthusiastic about what they do is taken away from the equation. Then, of course, fairness, right? We all talked about this at the leaders orientation too. We all want to feel like we are being treated fairly, that there's no favoritism. So those are also factors. If any one of those are not being attended to, then it contributes to demotivation. So these are 5 major theories. Of course, there are many other theories out there, but again, after looking at many theories, what I saw, these 5 give us some great foundation, framework. Now, looking at these theories, what I did to look at, so what are some of the key contribution conditions? So this is our third question that we are going to be looking at, lead into motivation that we can take away from these different theories and studies out there. So since our brain loves to have frameworks that is easy to kind of reflect on and remember and to recall, what I have done with little work, looking at all these different pieces, these 3 authors and other people have brought to the table, I created something called 7A formula for motivation. And we are going to be taking a look at it and talk about some specific ways how we can apply that. So, 7A formula. That means there are 7 conditions that's coming out of all this great work of these authors and other people out in the field. Number 1, autonomy, right? We saw. Number 2, abilities driven. This is what we sometimes call it strength-based. So as you can see, what I did some creativity around. I wanted to be having those terms with the letter A to help our brain to be able to kind of take it in. So I have tweaked the concept so it can start with letter A. So abilities driven is what you normally hear, the strength based. Number 3, advancement, right? This is what Daniel Pink and Dr. Seligman talks about, the mastery, right? So the need for advancement, human beings love for advancement. Number 4, alignment with life purpose. You saw that was also a piece that most of these authors are talking about, life purpose, meaning. Number 5, active engagement, active action, opportunity to be able to be action-oriented, active engagement. Number 6, accomplishment, achievement, right? To be able to accomplish something. Number 7, acknowledgement and appreciation. That is another huge, there are so many other work out there about motivation that our human brain, we may say, I don't look for kudos and all that, but very deep down, our human brain needs appreciation and at least acknowledgement, because that is what sends a signal in our brain for us to reinforce those good deeds that we do. What do we mean by reinforcing? We are strengthening the neural connections in the brain. But the brain has to get some messages in order to do that. That comes from the appreciation and acknowledgement. Now, our opportunity is to look at the next question. Out of our key questions, our 4th question is, so how can we provide these key conditions, opportunities for our visitors intentionally, by design? Now we are going to share ideas. So for each of these 7A factors, I have some ideas, but before I share them, I'm going to give you all the opportunity. We'll take one at a time. Let's hear some of the ideas you may have. So looking at the first one, autonomy, and that is to opportunity for involvement and ownership. Share with us through the chat again, what are some techniques or ideas that you see that we can, or the supervisors can use to promote this condition of autonomy for our VISTA members. So let's use the chat function. And then we'll take 1 or 2 minutes. Once I get some answers, then I will also go and share a few other specific techniques around that. And we will do the same thing for each of these 7, so we can take something concrete and meaningful. So Shreya, what are some of the things you think we could, or the organizations or the supervisors can do to get create the sense of autonomy? Okay, so clear definitions of expectations. Thank you. And please pay attention to what your the wisdom your colleagues are sharing through the chat function. Yes, encouraging visitors to do research on the topic, right? So that also get them ownership, opportunity for involvement. Yes, let them also have a say about their work plan. Very, very important. Okay, so we have a question. What about situations where visitors have too much autonomy, not enough direction? John, I think your question to me is lack of direction. So if there is lack of direction, that's a leadership issue or a management issue, right? If there is lack of direction, then people are going to find ways to fulfill their time. So then that is a challenge that first has to be addressed. It is not a motivational challenge, it's a leadership challenge. Not having, giving concrete directions. Okay, having responsibility to do, to bring in their, let's see, yeah, so to start something that that is actually needed, but also that they can focus on their own strengths. Yes, asking them how to approach a problem exactly. You know, having opportunities for that conversation in a meaningful way, really for people to be able to provide ideas. Exactly. Not to say, not to ask or say, this is how we should do, as one of our colleagues are saying here, but what should we do? Remember, those of you who had the leaders orientation, we talked about the importance of a leader or a supervisor or a manager asking the right questions, not giving the answers. right? We looked at those books like Beautiful Questions, many other different sources. So again, bringing that attitude creates the condition of autonomy. Thank you. Thank you for those who shared. So I am going to share a few, but as you can see, basically you had already shared those, right? So looking for opportunities, supervisors and you as a leader, creating opportunities for members to give input in different aspects, right? Then another one is autonomy is like the organization, the project, the supervisor can use the VISTA members also whenever there is opportunity to be the spokesperson for that project, their project, right? They are a representative. That also allows them, gives them the sense of autonomy and engagement. Decision maker, problem solver, as some of you said, ask them, you know, get them involved in. What are your ideas? What do you think about? What ways do you think we could do this better? How can we address this? And this is like what the last one chat says, creative and self-directly. Tell people what, you know, like if a supervisor tells the VISTA, this is what we need to accomplish, but leave the how out so the person can be creative and then be engaged in the how aspect of it, unless there is a prescribed way of doing business for some aspect. Okay, and I have somebody asking the question, will we have access to the slides after the webinar? Yes, so what will happen on the VISTA campus, these slides will be posted, okay? So just know that, and also the recording of the webinar for if you want to look at it for future reference. Okay, Aiden, I hope I answered your question. Okay, thank you. All right, now let's take a look at the second one. Abilities driven or strength based. Remember the strength finder, we talk about this, the leaders who came to the orientation got the leadership strength finder assessment. So how can we create the opportunity to use our members' strengths and skills in what they do? So abilities driven. Let's get some ideas. Again, what are some techniques, ideas, thoughts that comes to your mind to make sure the condition of strength-based opportunity is created for our VISTA members? What are the things, some of the things that you might be able to do, supervisors might be able to do to create this condition, maintain this condition for our VISTA members? Great, yes. So one of the things, as you can see, when you are looking at a project, looking at different aspects of the project, and then identifying the aspects and matching them with our members' strengths. Yes, very, very important. Asking them, giving them the opportunity to identify their own strengths and also bring it to the table. So all the stakeholders, everybody is aware of each other's strengths. That's the starting point. In order to use each other's strengths, we need to know what those are. Thank you. Yes, so again, matching with appropriate mentors based on their strengths. Yes, giving them opportunities to do training for their own colleagues, for other people, especially, you know, if that's one of their strengths, that way they can share those. Okay, and letting them know that they have a voice. Again, having a conversation to figure out, right, what are the things that they are enjoying, that's connecting with their strengths. Yep, looking at their past experiences, strengths, and allowing them the opportunity to connect with those. Thank you. These are very concrete again, and as you can see on the screen, some of what you have already said, right? So strengths, talents, skills, recognition, then utilization, making sure the WAD in a meaningful way, not just because there is a strength that we are going to just use it for the sake of using it. That would be the wrong approach to that. But really looking at the WAD and then finding opportunities to meet the match with our members' strengths, because then it will be an internal motivating factor. Outside of that as well, there may be other opportunities. A member might be able to get engaged using their strengths to do something meaningful, as long as it is not taking away from their primary role, if they have other ways that they can contribute. And again, making sure that they see, not only they, but also the organization, the supervisor see how some of their strengths could actually contribute to enhancing the project outcome, right? So allowing these connections to happen. Thank you again for sharing. Let's now look at number 3, advancement. As we said, this is another internal motivation factor, our opportunity to grow personally and professionally. So let's get some ideas again. What are some ways we can use to create this advancement need in our members' mind, in their lives? So that will also be catering to another motivational factor. Yep. So identifying their professional, personal needs and then connecting them with resources, as we see from the Vista campus, for example. Thank you. What else? What are some other ways that you can cater to this human need of advancement? Other ideas, let's see. What are some of the other things that you do with your members, or you have seen supervisors doing with members to allow them to advance? Yes, asking them, right? Having reflective conversations to see how else could have been, things could have been done. So again, to learn, not because sometimes we think learning only comes from failure. No, learning comes from successes as well, right? When there is success, there is a great opportunity for learning. Okay, and giving them additional opportunities for growth and responsibilities. Great, thank you. These are great ideas. Networking, yep, connecting with other individuals that will allow them to grow. And then being resourceful, right? So if they have advancement plans, it's not just an idea, but we help them to make it to be able to materialize those goals, ideas they have for advancement. Thank you. Appreciate again. So if you look at some of the techniques on the screen, first of all, the starting point, we really need to help our members. Some members will need more guidance than the others to really get them to think about what are their own personal and professional development training needs, right? One way we can go about doing this is to do a need assessment questionnaire to find out what are their life goals, what are their professional goals. based on their WAD, what kind of training needs do they have for their own advancement. So then providing new knowledge, skills, as some of you mentioned earlier, opportunities for them to grow, to learn, to sharpen their skills. Then also, some of my members may have areas, as we all do, that needs that they may need little more hand-holding for improvement. So helping, guiding, mentoring, counseling them on those areas so they can, that also leads to advancement. Then, if somebody is doing great work, not just stop there, raise the bar. That will allow them to learn new skills because now the bar is raised. So those are ways, again, as you had already shared, that we can go about promoting advancement. And then, number 4, the condition of alignment with life purpose. And this is about opportunity to connect to project outcomes, activities, and personal goals. Very, very important, again, as human beings. Anything we do, if they are aligned with our life purpose, we are self-motivated. So, what are some of the ways we can make sure that this condition is being addressed? So again, let's continue to share, and I really am very grateful for those of you who have been very generous, sharing your ideas, thoughts, wisdom with your colleagues, because these are very, very important, concrete ways we can go about doing these things. So let's hear, what are some ways that you see we can, or the supervisors or the organizations can create this opportunity condition for our members? Yep, get to understand their personal goals and how they connect with the project. Exactly. When they see that, when there is a clear connection, then I am excited to, when I wake up in the morning to go to work, because it brings meaning to my life journey, right? I'm not just doing it for the sake of doing just work, but there is a purpose, meaning there. But in order to do that, we need to allow them to see that connection. Yes, motivational statement. Thank you. This is very, very important. Sometimes we have these great resources that we have forgotten about, right? Reconnecting them to their mindset when they applied. And sort of reconnect, reignite that passion with the work that they are doing. And also, yes, there may be other opportunities in the organization. Again, if it is not hindering their VISTA primary work, but also in a way complement what they are doing, that has some connections to their own life purpose. That also an opportunity for them to re-energize their batteries, right? What else? Anything else that comes to anybody's mind? Yes. Building on, right? Building on what they have learned and that making the connection. Because if people see, some of these are life, most of what they cultivate, we cultivate at a workplace, they are not just work skills, they are life skills. And when people see that, then even that leads to internal motivation. And yes, making it personal, like giving them, again, these are interconnected, right? Like the first one, the autonomy. And here it's about ownership as well, right? When somebody has ownership, That's because they also have a personal connection to what they are doing. Thank you. So let's take a look at some of the things here. And again, almost all of these you have brought to the table in different words. Long-term personal and professional goals. We really need to get our vistas to identify those and to be able to articulate them in a way that those make sense to them. Then, as you had mentioned, some of you, creating project opportunities, aligning them with their life passions, with their life goals. And also, networking, as some of you had said earlier, finding social connections that also align with their life goals and life passions. Because these are ongoing, re-energizing processes or venues or sources that will keep somebody motivated. Number 5, active engagement, active action, right? Opportunity to deliver, opportunity to engage actively, opportunity to perform. So what are some ways we can go about doing this? Creating, either we or the organization or the supervisors. What are some of the things we can do? Yep, networking again. Exactly. This is not about keeping our members busy, keeping them productively, meaningfully engaged, right? Yes, so important. Regular check-ins and progress tracking. Pulse check. We all need that. We need to do that with our members. The supervisors need to do that to make sure and see that they feel that they are fully engaged, they are being utilized. Yes, whenever there is opportunity, giving them the leadership role, right? Let them have, that's earlier we were talking about, let them at times even being a spokesperson appropriately. When I train supervisors, I tell them, if you're at a board meeting, you have your Vista, yourself, you are going to be talking about the project. If it is appropriate, let the Vista talk about the project. Right? So you can take a back seat and let the Vista take that opportunity to be the spokesperson, because by doing that, this person also gets to have some recognition in the organization for what the person is doing, make stronger connections, and also it creates ownership. It promotes ownership. So simple ways. Yep, very, very important. And making sure the rest of the stakeholders, rest of the team, the organization, they clearly understand why Vista is there and for what purpose, right? So they can also support, appropriately guide, or get the engagement of the Vista in a meaningful way for everybody. Thank you. These are great ideas. So again, let's take a quick look at a few others, not necessarily others. They may be reinforcing what you have said right now. So action oriented, because Vistas, when I work with Vista supervisors during their orientations, I remind them, don't use passive verbs in the WAD. Use active verbs, because active verbs actually calls the Vista to action, right? So simple things like that, meaningfully challenging. And then being a knowledge broker among the other stakeholders, because the Vista, given the place the person is operating, will have a lot of information, because the person is connected to the project at a very deeper level that other stakeholders may not have. So can be a knowledge broker, right? So that also puts the person in a very active, important role. As some of you said earlier too, asking for their input for the WAD for their project enhancement. As we said, project progress presenter. The person can be also that spokesperson, the presenter, to talk about the project progress, project status. Yeah, and another one we see is like training people, coaching them to be able to do like what you do, like sort of a taste of leadership role, right? So that also get them to actively engage at another level. Thank you. Now let's take a look at the sixth component, accomplishment achievement. That's another human need for self-motivation. As we saw from all these great studies and theories and frameworks. So in this case, we are talking about creating the conditions, opportunity for our visitors to complete their projects and tasks successfully, right? So sense of accomplishment. So what are some of the things that you as a leader or the supervisors or the organizations might be able to do along those in relation to this specific condition? Let's continue to share. And once again, thank you for very active sharing by the group. I really appreciate this. That's the beauty of us coming together. Yep. So, you know, the feedback, praise in public, right? And share concerns in private, very important feedback, communication, guidance there. Let's see. We also have, yes, small benchmarks. This is so very, very important too. We cannot wait until the end of the year or the mid-service time for the member to feel the person is, you know, accomplishing things. There has to be benchmarks all along the way. So that way, the individual gets a sense of accomplishment, and also it's a good way to assess how the work is going to. Thank you. Yes, celebrating all the success, right? Whether it is large or small is not the question, but it is a success. And then we also have subtasks that demonstrate progress toward the goal. Yes, again, like the benchmarks, and also breaking down, as it said here, the major complex activities to small, concrete, accomplishable tasks. So then the person get a sense of being able to complete and accomplish, and that will keep the person motivated to go through that process. Yes, sharing project progress, having opportunities to do that, recognition, backup strategies. Yes, I mean this is goes back to you know, the risk assessment and prevention of projects and positive. Thank you. So again, nothing new. What some of you have brought to the table, you know, setting clear project purpose and direction, right? So John had asked that question right at the beginning. Remember, what if somebody is having too much autonomy because they don't have guidance or directions? You see, having directions is a motivational factor. So that if that is not created by the supervisor or the project or the organization, that can lead to misuse of another dimension. So that's why it's very, very important. Clear project purpose and directions, SMART based WAD. You all are very familiar with the SMART concept, right? The WAD has to be the goals of the WAD. Objectives of the WAD has to be SMART based, specific, measurable, action oriented, achievable, realistic, reasonable, and time-bound, right? So those are some basic aspects. Short-term outcomes, again, making sure they are realistic and achievable. So we are setting our members, the supervisors are setting their members for success, not to fail, right? Then, of course, giving them knowledge, skills, resources, equipping them with those, okay? All right, great. Thank you. Now let's move on to the seventh aspect, seventh A of our framework, the last condition, acknowledgement and appreciation. So what are some of the ways that organizations, we as leaders can do to meet this specific condition? Yes, shout outs, sometimes they can be very informal. It may not cost anything, but being very intentional about this, right? Doing, getting people the recognition they deserve. And I want to emphasize, they deserve. If we create a habit of recognizing people or acknowledging people for things they really don't deserve, then we are losing the meaning of acknowledgement, right? So taking the time, whenever there is the opportunity that somebody has really done something, taking the opportunity to be able to show that. Letters, notes, sometimes it could be something simple as just a post-it note we put on the member's computer when the member comes to the office in the morning. Notice that there is some recognition note for some good work that was done. That could be as simple as that. Okay, also, yes, treating people as not as a word, not as an object, but as subjects. What does that mean? Really being able to recognize people's personal aspects like birthdays, right? Checking with them at a personal level. Those are very, very, because that's an acknowledgement of their value in the organization as a human being. Okay, so let's move on to just give me a second, my chat feature is a little bit, okay. No better. Okay, thank you. And then, yes, sincerity and authenticity are very important. Thank you. I'm looking at some of the things. My chat got a little stuck at for a minute, so hand-given notices. Yes, attach whisper names to project success. Thank you. Yes, these are very, 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 very important, right? And it could be like a bulletin board, snaps or pictures of the person, the project engagement. Little things can go a long way. All right, so now let's look at some of the things here. As some of you had mentioned, collaborative regular project progress reviews. So that will allow opportunity for recognition of good work, acknowledgement. Then as you said, positive outcome, success acknowledgement. Again, whether big or small, recognizing when good things happen. And also, as some of you very clearly said, giving the credit when people deserve it. Because sometimes, I have to remind this to some supervisors at times, when something goes great and when your Vista member or the leader has done something very important and meaningful for that success, we really need to make sure that the individuals are being given the credit for that. Then that reinforces, right? Provide the platforms, yes, for visitors to share their expertise with one another, because that's another way you are recognizing what they bring to the table, right? They also recognize, when you recognize them that way as a leader, they also recognize what is inside you, and one aspect, and that is you truly care, right? That's a huge trust builder, a rapport builder. Thank you. Now, those are the 7 aspects. Now let's take a look at what are some guiding principles of motivation. So there are many principles, but I like these 4 guiding principles as a reminder to all of us. First, as some of you said in different terms or different words, knowing our members as individuals, right? So knowing their, about them as persons, not just as a word, knowing what are their goals, what are their interests, what are their strengths, what are their hot buttons. That's important, because this is about people business, right? Motivation. Why a lot of more organizations lose their employees is when an employee or individual feels they are not being acknowledged as a human being anymore. People lose it, right? Because number one, we all are human beings. Whatever the professions we do is secondary. Okay, looking at number 2. Use an individualized leading approach with our members. This is very, very important to leaders, because sometimes we see leaders, supervisors they have this one cookie cutter approach, and that's what they are using for everybody. It's a disaster, because every human being is unique, right? So we have to have a customized approach. In order to have a customized approach, that is why that first guiding principle is so important. Because if I don't know my individuals, my members as individuals, I cannot have a customized approach. And then, very, very important, this is for everybody, supervisors, managers, leaders, anybody who is leading at a workplace. We have to do a mind shift. And we need a lot of people, when somebody is demotivated, their first thinking is, what's wrong with this person? We need to replace that question and ask ourselves, what's making this person to behave this way? And that will tell us what are some of the demotivation factors that has taken place, what are the conditions that's not being met, as we looked at what those conditions are, and then actually start fixing the environment, creating those conditions for our people. That will motivate them. Our business, a leader's business is not fixing people, right? It's about fixing the environment, providing them the right resources, guidance, clarity, all that stuff. Fixing person to me then is more like going to the doctor, and leaders are not doctors. Okay, number 4, be genuine with our efforts, have trust and believe in our members, because as you know, if we believe in our members' ability and their ability to perform, if we have a positive feeling, they will live up to that. There are many psychological studies, right? I was reading about some studies that Stanford carried out, self-fulfilling prophecy. If a teacher tells a young kid, hey, you are not going to be successful, by all means, that kid will be a failure. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Parents can do this, leaders can do this, supervisors can do this. human beings have the potential, right? So how can we connect with that and provide the right direction? So those are the 4 guiding principles. Now, how can we apply what we reviewed, discussed? There are many ways that you will be applying, hopefully adapting. Just 2 things that I want to just put as food for thought that you may want to think about. You know, like looking at those 7 A's conditions, I can, you know, as a leader, I might create sort of an assessment or a set of questions that I can use to help me understanding to what extent those conditions are being met and what are the ones that's not met, and how can I, you know, go about helping the supervisors, helping the organizations, so these conditions will be met, created for our members to promote their self-internal motivation. And also sometimes another opportunity could be having a conversation with the supervisor of the member and really bringing to that person's attention, you know, these are some ways we can, you know, that we might be able to keep our members fully engaged, meaningfully engaged, and create a self-fulfilling experience for them while making it a worthwhile experience for the organization and for the project. That's a win-win situation for everybody. But sometimes our supervisors, some of their supervisors may be new to supervision, new to leadership, right? And that's okay. So how can we also, as a leader, sort of bring something to the table, provide some ingredients that they might be able to adapt in their leadership recipe? Okay, so those are 2 things. Looking at the time factor, just few more minutes before I close. So what we were looking at today, those 6 questions, what is motivating and what challenges it. We looked at models, then we looked at what are the contributing conditions, then we looked at how can we promote this. That's where you shared a lot of great ideas. Thank you so much again. Then what are some of the guiding principles, and how can we apply, how can we apply those? So let's look at some additional resources, and I kind of introduced these resources along the way in a more sort of a meaningful context based on where they really had a connection. But here's just a general list. Again, I know some of you are always looking for additional materials, so please make a note of those if you are interested using them later. And then before you go, I also have, as you know, the survey. It's very, very important that you complete that. So I'm going to open it for you to complete. But before we do that, I want to take a minute or 2, just get some your ideas. What are some of the other action steps that you might do in relation to, based on what we talked about? Anything that comes to your mind that you might be thinking about doing in regard to promoting member motivation? Let's take a minute or 2 before we do the poll, because that way this will give, if you have some concrete ideas, it will give some ideas for our colleagues here. Yep, make sure I know everyone's birthdays. Yes, thank you. I mean, they may sound very simple, but this goes a long way. Because it's not only you are getting to know it, but also you approaching out with that kind of interest, a genuine interest. It sends a signal, right, to the member that you truly care about the people as human beings. You are not only care about the quarterly report. It is important, but you also care about your team as individuals, as human beings. Thank you. Any other things that comes to anybody's mind? before I open the poll, I just want to give a moment for people if they are, yes, thank you, asking people, right? Working with them to helping them to identify their strengths and limitations, right? Strengths in order to make sure they are well utilized appropriately, limitations in order to see how we can help them to hone those areas or skills, sharpen those skills. Okay. All right. So looking at the time factor, I also want to be reasonable here. Today's Friday. So I'm going to open the poll. So could you please complete it before you go? And it should be open right now on your screen. And while you are doing it, if there are any other questions or thoughts, please use the chat function to ask those or share with each other. Yes, another one we are seeing is to increase in-depth interactions, not just interactions, but honest and open conversations with the individual visitors. Very, very important, right? We cannot neglect the importance of honest and intentional conversations. So please do share if you have stuff, but also in the meantime, please do complete the poll. Because it's very, very important for us to have that information. And while you are doing that, thank you again. Thank you so much for taking time out of a Friday to come to this conversation, and also sharing so much, sharing so much wisdom and great insights with each other. And also, very importantly, your sincere, genuine interest, making sure your Vista members, this year of their work, their life journey, is going to be meaningful and fulfilling for them. So one of the key things for that is how can we maintain, allow them, help them to maintain that motivation that they brought when they sign up until the last day, so they can fully engage and have a meaningful journey. So I appreciate your commitment to your leader and your members' success, and also your very generous sharing today and participation. It's been a great participation from our audience today. So thank you very much. So again, please make sure that you do the poll before you leave. And if you have any questions, again, you can ask it through the chat function now, or additional insights you want to share with each other. If not, other than that, we are done with the session. So again, if you have completed the survey, and if you do not have any other questions, you are free to leave. But thank you again, and have a wonderful weekend. And thank you for all the great work you do. You are just making your members this year of their life a very meaningful and fulfilling one for them. So we very truly appreciate all the great work you all do as leaders. And we understand it comes with a lot of commitment and a lot of work. So thank you.